Hello, welcome to this edition of the Fifth Quarter. In case you're wondering, you haven't tuned into the wrong video here. Mike Shiroki, our Herald-Standard sports editor, unfortunately had a death in his family. He wasn't able to make it. So I'm pinch hitting. My name is Mark O'Keefe. I'm executive editor for the Herald-Standard. And with us once again, very fortunate to have George Von Benko, one of the veteran media, sports analysts, whatever you want to call it, in the entire tri-state area. George does a weekly column for us, Memory Lane, but George has been covering the Steelers and Pittsburgh sports for quite some time.
Yeah, I told Mike the one day, 1969 was my first year covering the Steelers.
So
I was still in high school.
So we're very fortunate to have you.
I appreciate that, and sorry about Mike's misfortune, but we've got an able pinch hitter. We're bringing in the heavy guns today.
We'll try. We'll give it a shot. So let's talk about, of course, the Steelers had a fantastic 41-9 win over the Cleveland Browns in the season finale there. Now, you said you thought that they were going to kill.
I did. I wasn't expecting a game. A lot of my brethren in the media were, including Eddie Bouchette and people like that. They were worried a little bit about the game. And going back to last year when they stubbed their toe up in Cleveland, which really cost them a playoff spot last year, I just looked at the Browns, and even though they had played some teams tough, Eric Mangini was twisting in the wind up there, so to speak, and it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that he was not going to save his job, and I think they sealed that for him with their performance on Sunday against the Steelers. They didn't show up.
They did get the boot this morning.
He did get the boot this morning, but they didn't show up, and plus the Steelers really had something to play for. People may not think they had something to play for. They did have something to play for. They played for that second seed in the AFC playoffs, and they played for the time off that it gives them, which is going to get some dinged-up players healthy. They wanted that time off. Mike Tomlin made sure they knew that they needed that time off, and it was a very workmanlike performance. They went up, and they took care of business.
Yeah, one of the things, we were talking about the Browns before the show was that the thing that I thought was kind of impressive was that the Browns had lost, coming in the game, they had lost 10 games, but only 9 of them had been by less than 10 points. The only one was the Steelers, the first game. I think the score there was 28-10. So, I mean, it really wasn't like they were, but Carolina was pretty bad.
Carolina was pretty bad.
It was really bad. But I didn't think the Browns, especially their defense, I thought had played pretty good all year. A week ago, Baltimore, they only lost to Baltimore 20-10. So I thought that this was a really good sign, perhaps, that the offense may be starting to really come around.
Well, I think it was their best performance in a while offensively. Even more impressive was what they did defensively because, after allowing Cleveland 43 yards on 17 carries in that win, the Steelers set a franchise record for allowing the fewest yards rushing in a season, 1,004 yards. The fewest yards per game, 62.8. That eclipsed the old record of 1,125 yards set in a 12-game season back in 1953. And the former yards per game record was 74.7, set back in 2001. Steelers came within 34 yards of tying the NFL record for rushing yards allowed in a 16-game season. That was 970, set in 2000 by the Baltimore Ravens. So it was a tremendous defensive effort and just a continuation of pretty much what had been going on all year long. I think a couple other interesting things. The Steelers are the only NFL team to allow one run longer than 20 yards in 2010. Yeah. One run longer than 20 yards. They allowed just 2 teams, the Jets with 106 and the New England Patriots with 102, to rush for more than 100 yards against them. No other team rushed for more than 75 yards against the Steeler defense, and they did not allow a 100-yard rusher all season, and just one in the last 50 games.
That's pretty amazing numbers. Of course, it was good to see Troy Polamalu back out there.
Well, they have
a lot of talk about, was he going to rest, sit it out, or?
Well, I was wondering what it was going to be. He did not practice until Friday, which is generally what they do with him. But I think it it speaks volumes that Mike Tomlin thought that this was an important game and they needed that second seed. They needed that rest. But also, I don't think they would have played Polamalu if he was. And the way he was moving around out there, he was ready to play. Yeah. He was ready to play.
Had an interception pretty early.
Set the tone for the game right at the beginning.
Yeah. Another.
How about the play leaping over the line of scrimmage and timing it? It looked like Superman. All he needed was a cape.
You thought for sure it was good. They were going to call him for being offside,
but he timed it just perfect.
Perfect, and did seem to kind of disrupt. Well, I'm not real sure what they were going to do, but kind of disrupted the play.
It threw the whole play out and killed her. But I give kudos to Ryan Monday, who filled in past weeks for Polamalu. I thought he did a very good and very workmanlike job filling in. But you can just look at the Steeler defense. They are a different defense with Polamalu.
Right.
There's a different edge, a different attitude about it. He allows them to do some different things. They're just a different defense with him in there.
Yeah, he's a big difference maker. That's for sure. But getting back to the offense, been having a lot of trouble in the red zone this year. I'm not sure what exactly the numbers were, but it seemed like every time they get down there, a lot of times they'd have to settle for field goals. Here, I think they were 5 for 7 or whatever.
They did very well, and some things came to the forefront there. Mike Wallace tied John Stallworth's team record, which was set back in 1984, of having 7 100-yard receiving games in a season, and he teamed with Roethlisberger to set the record. The 56-yard touchdown pass, which was in the first quarter, was the 8th of 40 or more yards between Wallace and Roethlisberger, so they're really on the same page. And Mike Tomlin all year long had been calling him a one-trick pony, saying that's all he can do is do. And I think it was a motivational thing, because I've talked to Wallace about that. Believe me, he's more than a one-trick pony right now. Yeah. Mike Wallace is turning into one of the best young wide receivers in the National Football League.
Yeah, he seems to really be coming along. It seems like when they bring guys up to try and blitz, that he's such a good receiver.
He's starting to fill the role that Hines Ward did. Is that he's understanding it. Plus, I really like, and I don't know how you feel about it, but Mike and I have talked about it on past fifth quarters. Really like the development of Emmanuel Sanders and Antonio Brown, those two young wide receivers. I think they are just going to get better, and I really think those were 2 great draft picks that the Steelers got. Those 2 kids are really going to serve the Steelers well.
Both in the 3rd round, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. You're kind of seeing Hines Ward maybe, I don't want to say phased out, but his role maybe not as crucial as it was, but it's good because he is getting older. It's certainly good to see these young guys coming up now through
and the thing that Hines has done this year, and he's embraced it, is he's been a teacher.
Right.
He's taken those guys under his wing and imparted, there's no making up for having the knowledge and the veteran leadership like that, and he is willing to talk with you, and that he's taken them under their wing. That's invaluable for those young receivers. Right. It really is.
Right. So let's talk now. Next week, and of course, the Steelers will have a bye, but it's going to be a very interesting weekend for the Steelers to watch and see who they're going to have to play. Saturday night, you have the Jets in Indianapolis, and if the Jets win, then
there's no way they can play the Steelers.
So then it would fall to the Ravens and the Chiefs on Sunday. But if Indianapolis wins, they're coming to Pittsburgh.
They're the highest seed. They're coming to Pittsburgh. The only way that either the Chiefs or Ravens would come is if
the Jets win.
If the Jets win.
So who do you think is going to win that game between the Jets and the Colts?
I gotta tell you, with all of the injuries, I think it was 18 players at various points during the season have been down for Indianapolis. And to do what they did and prevail in that division, Jim Caldwell did a great job with that team, bringing them through all the injuries. They've got Peyton Manning. They're going to be playing the Jets at home, I believe, at Indianapolis.
Right. Yeah.
I sort of like, I would never bet against Peyton Manning at home. I just and the Jets have been a mystery to me. There have been times when I thought that they really looked like they were a Super Bowl contender, and there have been other times in the season when I looked at them and they looked like they were so totally disorganized that I'm just going to stick with Indy because of the home field.
So then, if Indianapolis wins, what do you think that poses?
Well, the Steelers have fared well against Indianapolis in the past. I'm not afraid of playing Peyton Manning. I would rather play the Chiefs or the Colts than I would the Ravens. I'm hoping the Ravens go to New England and knock off New England. That way you avoid, because right now the way New England's playing, they're a prohibitive favorite right now, in my mind. They are just hitting on all cylinders. I would rather not make that trip to Foxborough, and if they get knocked off, well, the Steelers have home field. So that's what, if you're a Steeler fan, that's what you got to pull for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So pretty much you think then, as far as the Ravens and the Chiefs, then on Sunday, you pretty much think the Ravens.
I think the Ravens will take care of business, and I really think them losing to Oakland the way they did, they got punched in the mouth the other day. And how about that stat for Oakland? I found that interesting. They go 6-0 in their division. They're undefeated in their division. And the first time since the merger in 1970, a team goes 6-0, undefeated in their division, and does not get into the playoffs. That's really strange.
8-8. There were 2 games. Really, the Steelers pretty much handled them pretty easily.
But I think Kansas City's got problems, and I think the Charlie Weiss leaving to take the offensive coordinator's job at Florida, those young guys on the team, it's a very young team, they looked like they weren't ready to play, and I'm just not quite sure what effect that is going to have on that young team, realizing that Weiss is leaving and it's a distraction. I just think Baltimore is going to go in there and take care of business. And that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for a Baltimore-New England and a Steeler-Colts matchup.
Yeah, that'd be good. So what do you think, as far as you think then the Ravens would have a chance against the Patriots?
I think they would, yeah. They've played them tough in the past.
They beat them last year.
They beat them last year in the playoffs. I think they're going to have to force some turnovers, and therein lies the rub. Tom Brady hasn't thrown an interception in 318 passes or something like that. They take care of the football. I think Baltimore's going to have to take care of the football. That was some of their undoing in some other games. When they turn the ball over, they have problems. I think they need a clean football game, and I think they need to give their offense a short field on a couple of occasions in order to win that game.
So you think people should kind of root them for...
Well, that's what I'm rooting for.
Indianapolis.
I mean, if I don't have to face, New England,
Tom Brady.
If I don't have to face Tom Brady, I'm fine with that.
Of course, we've had trouble with our secondary with good passers.
Well, and there's problems right now. Thank goodness they have a week because Bryant McFadden got hurt, and for what I understand, Mike Tomlin did not foo-foo that injury after the game. He said it was an abdominal injury. We're not sure how serious. So that places more strain on that Steelers secondary. But we're almost out of time. 20th division title for the Steelers, the most in the league since the NFL merger in 1970. And all I can say is we've got playoffs this weekend. Sit back and enjoy.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, you think sometimes people, maybe in Pittsburgh, we're a little spoiled.
Well, it's easy to
granted. It's Tomlin. It's actually his third division.
No, I don't think they take it for granted. I think when the Braves had that run in baseball of 14 consecutive division titles, I think their fans did take it for granted because they didn't turn out.
Yeah.
You're not going to see that at Heinz Field. Steeler fans turn out for their team.
Yeah.
So let's wait and see what happens. And I guess Mike and I will probably be back together next week for the fifth quarter to talk about who the Steelers are going to play.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, want to thank George Von Benko. George does the memory lane for the appears weekly every Tuesday in the Herald-Standard. Make sure you read that. And my name is Mark O'Keefe. I'm executive editor for the Herald-Standard. I was pinch hitting this week for our sports editor, Mike Shiroki, who had a death in the family. So once again, I want to thank George. I want to thank you out there for watching. We'll see you later.